Today we're going to take a look at 10 examples of a death cross. You are going to say, well, what the heck is going on, Leonardo? Are things really that bad? We're talking about death and crosses now? Are the markets really looking so horrible? Ladies, gentlemen, nothing to worry about. If you're not familiar with what death cross is just a simple indication when a 50-day moving average line of a particular stock is crossing the 200-day moving average line, which is typically considered to be a bearish indicator, a representation that a stock price could further drop in the future. The two key takeaways that I want you to definitely pay attention to as we're going for these examples. And by the way, at the very end of this video, if you stay with me till the end, I will give you 2 bonus examples of a completely fake death cross type situation, which instead of leading the price in a particular stock lower, takes it way higher. And I'll give you a little secret of what to look for in order to not be fooled by a fake death cross. And bonus number 2, I will reveal to you a stock that just recently made a death cross on its chart. And I believe it has substantial room to fall much further from where it is currently trading. Now, the 2 key takeaways: never place a trade solely based on one observation or one indication. In other words, you want to have a collection of 4, 5, 6 different factors, different things that you're considering that are pointing out to a particular direction in the future stock price action. Now, if you'd like to know what those indicators are, besides the death cross, because this is just one, right? I don't want you guys, ladies, to going out there next week, as soon as you find the death cross in your chart, I don't want you to be placing a bunch of bearish bets. If you want to learn more, visit marketcrash.money. Hit the big green button that says How to Profit. Schedule your one-on-one coaching training sessions with me about how to trade weekly options, monthly options, yearly options, and get all your questions answered. Get the rest of the secret formula to go along with these 10 examples that I'm about to reveal. So, again, number 1, you never want to place a trade based on simple one observation. Number 2, time frame is of key importance. In other words, you want to compare different time frames. You want to compare the 15-minute chart to a daily chart, to a weekly chart, to a yearly chart, and you want to look at different time frames to get a sense of more precision when you're looking at these death cross situations. Of course, the longer time frame giving you a more accurate reading that will prevail overall in a particular stock over a longer time frame. So let me give you an example. A stock that everyone should be familiar with right here. We're taking a look at the chart of Facebook. And what do we see? We're looking at the daily chart on Facebook. What do we have? We have a nice little death cross going on right here. Now, is this a clear indication that Facebook is going to drop? What do you think? Well, before we give an answer to that question again, we want to take a look at a few other indicators. We're not going to discuss a bunch of different indicators that are pointing to different things here. I simply am making this video so you can get an idea of different scenarios of how death cross can either work in your favor or against you, and some of the key things to look out for. But in this case, we're simply going to move to a weekly chart. Again, right now we're taking a look at the daily. We're going to switch this to a weekly chart, and we're going to see what do we have on the weekly. And when we move to the weekly chart, check this out. There is no death cross here. So what do? Look, clearly Facebook's got a nice uptrend. Yes, it had some challenges in the last month, but it's still very close to its 50-day moving average, right? Look, there's no indication that the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average either narrow in their range. They're just as wide away from each other as they were a year ago. So what we're seeing in the daily chart is completely different from what we're seeing on a weekly chart. So Should we be using the daily chart as an indication that this is a complete reversal of the trend in Facebook? I think that is something to keep in mind. Okay, however, I wouldn't be placing just a bearish trade observing the death cross Facebook just on the daily chart. Now, what if we had an indication that we also had a death cross here on the weekly chart as well? Well, I think that would have produced a much more accurate reading, and in that case, I would have been taking a look at other indicators to determine what are the other bearish things that could be pointed out to a further drop in Facebook price besides the death cross. Okay, now we're going to take a quick look at a few examples, and the key thing for me to point out is the average price decline or increase right after the death cross takes place, and more importantly, the various case scenarios that could be taking place right after the death cross. Let's start with the first winner right here, MAN, or Manpower Group. Now, this is a very fresh example, and what you could gather from this price action right here, blue line crossing the orange line, here's your death cross. Now, as you can see, right after that, the price actually moves higher slightly, and then it drops like a rock completely. So roughly for about a 20%, now I'm not calculating these percentages down to a penny, so give or take roughly 20% move here on MAN, lower shortly after the death cross. Okay, next example, AutoZone. Short-term rise in price right after death cross, followed by a much sharper decline. Now, as you know, AutoZone, I like to use it because its chart patterns illustrate so many different things. We have been covering this stock since it was trading at $720, $740 range, suggesting that it is a long-term bear stock. And clearly, yesterday on April 20th, it actually hit a low of $5.95. So we've been covering the stock since it was here, and since then it has moved lower about $130, $140. What we're observing here in the death cross is actually the price has moved up since the death cross substantially, and then it has moved much lower, and in my view it actually has a chance of revisiting the low right here, which is around $500. So again, just because you see a death cross, this is not necessarily the time to just jump in. In this particular case, the move higher was quite substantial, and the stock did not start retreating back until it actually hit some of these levels right here, which it hasn't been able to break through before. So in this case, we had multiple top type situation. The stock wasn't able to break, but the early indication that it was not going to break through this level of 780, 800 level, besides this multiple tops here, was this death cross. So it was an indication that a bearish move in the stock could be happening in the near future. It did not indicate it was going to take place right there and then, but it was something to pay attention to, which could have led you to a very nice trade to the extent of $130, $140 if you observe some of the other indicators, which I covered in some of the previous videos. So if you're curious what they were, please visit them and check them out. Next example, immediate fall right after death cross. BIIB, Biogen Pharmaceuticals. Okay, clearly right here's the death cross, here's the stock price, starts dropping, then recovers a little bit, keeps dropping, and who knows, it may keep dropping. Now in this particular case, moved about 10% lower. In the case going back to AutoZone, it was about 20% move lower. So far we got 20% lower, 10% lower after the death cross. Now what's different about this example, of course, is we're seeing that there is no delay here. The moment this death cross occurs, the price starts falling the following day, and it keeps falling. Next example, YY, one of the Chinese companies. Now in this case, the drop was much larger and in a much shorter amount of time. We see a 35% drop right after the death cross. Now it doesn't necessarily fall the very next day. It actually takes it maybe a few days of about sideways trading before it makes a much lower move. Observe this. After the 35% drop, the stock did go sideways again, and it actually had a complete reversal right here. The blue line crossed the orange line, and the stock moved substantially higher. It ran into a multiple top situation here, and who knows, maybe it is working again on doing another death cross right here. So possibly in the future, in the next few months, that would be something I would be actually taking a closer look at. But for now, in this particular example, short-term immediate drop right after the death cross. Let's take a look at the next example. Chipotle Mexican Grill, 50% drop after the death cross. 50% drop, blue line crosses the orange line right here. The stock trades at about $500. After that, it is at 250. And this is a weekly chart, so when I say short term after that, that really takes about a year for a 50% drop. But clearly, if you were to initiate your position here, despite of a temporary rise here in the share price, which was still under the death cross, okay, it would have taken you significantly lower if you were to hand in with the trade. So for those of you that are planning on trading long term and you're wondering how to utilize options in order to maximize your returns, definitely visit marketcrash.money, hit the big green button right there. You can't miss it. Schedule your one-on-one consultation/coaching session. Get your questions answered. Find out how you can profit from the next major market or a move in a particular stock. Next example, COHR, Coherent, 20% drop after the death cross. Now, this was almost simultaneously. However, we do see right at the moment of the death cross, for a short while, maybe for a few days, the stock did move higher and then it dropped 20%. So again, be very careful. Just when you observe the death cross situation does not mean you should automatically be jumping in the trade. But definitely pay attention to it because as you can see, it is a powerful indicator. Now, I promise you, I was going to give you an example of a fake death cross. Well, there you go. UPS. Take a look at what's taking place. Here's the death cross. What happens to the price? It moves higher. Well, how could I have determined that it was a fake death cross? Well, if we take a closer look at UPS, right? Always check different time frames to get a better reading of the validity of the death cross. So what do we see on a weekly chart? Well, there's nothing going on here. The distance between the blue line and the orange line has been pretty consistent for the last couple of years. So we're not definitely seeing no signs of a death cross here. However, the price action indicates it may happen at a later time. But do I automatically place a bearish trade here? No, not necessarily, because on different time frames, I'm getting different readings. So that would not be enough reason for me to be placing a trade right here. And bonus number 2, one stock that just made a death cross. The death cross right here, NTES. Now, so far, the stock has fallen 7% after the death cross. As we've seen in the prior examples, most of the time, they will fall after the death cross anywhere from 10 to 35%, and in some instances, over a longer time frame, as much as 50%. So could this trend and NTES continue? This is definitely something I will be paying attention to because on this particular chart, there is a number of other bearish indicators that are pointing to a further move lower in this particular stock. And as promised, there was another bonus at the end of the video. So what is the absolute winner of the death cross? REGN Pharmaceuticals. As you can see, it made a death cross when it was trading around $430. Since then, the stock has gone down by in excess of $100 and closed on April 20th at $314.25. So we clearly observed, now this is the daily chart, we observed the death cross on the daily chart. If we were to analyze the weekly chart, we're actually getting a reading of a death cross here as well. Now, please observe that this stock has actually tried to make a move higher. So the first death cross we observed on the weekly chart happened right here, after which the stock did decline from $400 all the way to $360, a move of over 10-12% right here. Since then, it has bounced back, tried to regain that higher ground here again, was unable to sustain. We clearly see a lot of bearish signs. The gap down, another gap down, crossing both the blue line and the orange line, so both moving averages. And now it is also confirmed on the weekly chart, another death cross here, which makes me believe as the stock is hitting its 3-year low of 314, which is also another bearish indicator. And there's actually some other bearish indicators. I'm just not going to point them out right here. If you're curious to learn what they are, again, marketcrash.money, hit the big green button, boom, schedule your one-on-one. We'll get all your questions answered. But in my view, this is when you do want to take action. Again, what did I do? I looked at the different time frames, and I'm getting consistent readings now on the daily chart. I'm getting a consistent reading on the weekly chart. I'm also noticing at least 5 or 6 other bearish indicators. One of them being that the stock is hitting its all-time low over the last few years. Now, if you'd like to learn more, what other indicators am I using? What other stocks are about to make a death cross that could be an indication of a further drop? What other stocks just possibly did do a death cross? If you'd like to learn more, visit marketcrash.money, hit the big green button right here, how to profit, take action. If you schedule your one-on-one consultation, I will give you a ton of value. I will actually share a case study of my best performance day in trading weekly options, where I trade $12,000 into $460,000 in less than 7 hours. And I specifically tell you what strategies I use, why do I use them, which stocks are more beneficial to trade options with. I reveal a ton of secrets that will save you a lot of time trying to discover all those things on your own. So if you'd like to make less mistakes, if you'd like to get better results, if you'd like to trade, whether you're an active day trader or a more of a long-term investor, if you'd like to be more effective with your strategy, definitely this big green button could turn your 2018 into your most profitable year ever. Take action now.